when you are following the logic of evolution, what we know, what could we expect, say, as hypothetical alien species to look like? Are there certain characteristics or features that you would bank on there being?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and it goes to the heart of like the overlap between life and physics, right? Or
Hmm.
because like I said, to me, life is such a amazing. That's really one of my main areas now is working on what we call the physics of life, trying to understand what makes a cell different from a rock, right? Um, and one of the most important differences there, this is my standard joke. If you've heard it before, sorry, but I love telling it. Like, if you gave me a star and gave me its characteristics, its mass, and its chemical composition, I could tell you everything that's going to happen throughout its entire life. Not the details, but, I can tell you really what its future is like. If you gave me a cell and asked me what's going to happen, there's no way I would, after a billion years, there's no way I would predict a giant rabbit that would punch you in the face, right? A kangaroo. Like evolution, what evolution shows you is that life is the only system in the entire universe that creates, that goes beyond itself, that innovates, right? That does things that you totally can't predict. So the question of like what a life on another planet would look like, you can never answer specifically, right? But when you look at like the overlap between the evolution and the challenges that physics and chemistry provide for life, then you can at least say some basic things. So for example, if you have life that evolves on a where you have a hard surface and a gas, well, you got to move around to get food. So you probably are going to end up with something that allows you to move. And one of those things would be jointed sticks, right? Legs. Now, I can't tell you how many legs they're going to be or how many joints they're going to be, but that's a solution that we see on Earth has happened many times. So one thing you do when you want to answer this question is you look at life on Earth and say, how many times did life come up with legs? And how many times were they completely different lineages, like evolutionary lineages? If the atmosphere is thick enough, then flight will be possible. Flight will be a great way of getting around. So let's look at how many times that happened on Earth. Well, you got mammals, bats, right? You've got insects, totally different evolutionary lineage. And then you've got reptiles, which eventually became birds. So that gives you the sense that evolution is going to keep coming up with wings. The wings may look totally different from each other, but the basic idea of wings is something that you're going to hit on. And so what's interesting in this debate, so I can say like legs, wings, right? Some kind of light collector, if you're, depending on how dense the atmosphere, like if you're in an atmosphere that's super dense and you can't see more than your hand in front of your face, you're probably not going to develop light detectors. It's not helpful, right? You probably do more like with sound. You'll have big ears or something. But in evolution, there's always a balance between what's called contingency, which are accidents, and convergence. So the convergence is what I was just describing. Physics will lead you to wings one way or another, right? But accidents are just as important in evolution, right? So there's the idea that if you were to go back and rewind the history of Earth's evolution, the life on Earth, and then play it again, you wouldn't end up, there would be no species on here on Earth, on that alternate Earth, than that's here now, because there's so many accidents, right? A rock rolls down and kills the first version of a bat, and that's it. There's no bats. And you end up with something else that looks totally different but has wings. And this is important because one thing it tells you is there's no more humanoids. We are the only, head sitting on top of, shoulders. That is just, there's too many accidents that led to our body plan. So, and again, this does lead to like the UFO stuff with the little green men and the grays and everything. It's like, that is not how evolution works, man. You're not going to get something that looks just like us, except big eyes, and spindly little fingers. As I like to say, when we do find life, what you should be prepared for is not to recognize like, oh, look, it kind of looks like us. Instead, you should be prepared to be A, terrified, and B, completely grossed out, because it probably won't, look anything like us. And will be pretty kind of monstrously scary.